Hello and welcome to another episode of Niche to Necessity. Today we're excited to welcome Hugo Finkelstein. He's co-founder and CEO of Rise, and Rise is building hybrid payroll solutions for users across the globe. Welcome, Hugo. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure being here.
So for our listeners, could you just give a brief overview of Rise and your role within the company and kind of how its origin story, if you will?
Yeah. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Rise. Rise is a global payments and payroll company that's helping global teams essentially handle all of their payment needs, whether that's B2B payments, contractor payments, or full-time employee payments.
That's very good.
Yeah. In the backstory is basically it's actually quite interesting. So I've been in the space since 2017, kind of like at the peak of, the ICO craze. I was handling, all marketing efforts for multiple projects, created a marketing agency around it. That marketing agency led me to get into the freelancer gig economy industry, spending a lot of time on, the likes of Fiverr and Upworks, realizing how important that flexible, independent workforce was going to be. My co-founder Andrew was running a consulting shop in the space, so helping all kinds of blockchain projects, with wallets, exchanges, explorers, etc. We met on AngelList online, actually, in early 2019. And for a few months, we brainstormed what practical use cases we could solve leveraging new technologies, these new, decentralized technologies. We didn't want to get into something speculative, just wanted to have a real world use case with these new technologies. Very quickly, we landed on the idea that we could build a better marketplace, a gig economy marketplace, that would empower users, both payers and payees, independent contractors, by leveraging these new technologies, making them more independent, faster payouts, lower fees, et cetera, and so forth. We launched Rise V1, which was actually a marketplace, so not at all what we have today. But the idea was connecting businesses with independent contractors, and then facilitating payments on chain, releasing funds via smart contracts based on milestones that were achieved. That was kind of the idea. We launched that in 2021, had dozens of customers, did about a couple like about 50K in GMV, and quickly realized we had a much better plan and play if we were to package the infrastructure we had built in terms of payments, add a layer of compliance to it, employment compliance, and essentially help any company, whether it's a DAO, it's a startup, it's a protocol, or it's a company that has nothing to do with crypto, help these organizations hire and onboard international workers and pay them however they want. So that's when we made the pivot in 2021 and launched what we have today in 2022, so over 2 years ago.
That's super cool. I love companies like yours that have an origin story that's born out of a pain point, that you experienced yourself in the industry. I was involved with a project that did a lot of audited smart contracts and things like that, so that they could have token locks and things like that, because the founder had gotten rugged a few times, so he wanted to be able to lock up his liquidity. He wanted to be able to ensure that projects he was investing in were locking their liquidity tokens or their team tokens or things like that. So I also got in the space right around when you did. So I was after the peak and in the trough, but I was like, okay, now's the time to enter, right? It's those bear markets are good to build. Very cool. So I noticed on a lot of your marketing materials, you guys talk about this hybrid payroll solution. What does hybrid payroll mean to you?
Yeah, so it's really a term that we want to coin. Essentially, when we say hybrid, we mean that we can blend fiat currencies, so currencies that are backed by governments, stable coins, and cryptocurrencies. So basically, we talk a lot about our hybrid payroll engine or hybrid payment engine, and that's essentially an engine that has a full-on fiat capacity, and a full-on on-chain capacity with stablecoins and crypto. And that means, pay-ins in whatever currency, payouts in whatever currency, all of that obviously compliant to the max. And on top of that engine, stacking up different products and services.
That's interesting. So, someone doesn't need to use crypto to use your solution. They can be just, operating in multiple,
Yeah,
different currencies that just, it facilitates an ease of transitioning between those as
yeah,
well. And
exactly.
so you're almost future-proofing your business as well if you're working with Rise, because even if you don't use stablecoin payments today, you might decide to in the future. So
Yeah,
you're kind of like
right.
keeping the door open.
And we see many, we have many, different use cases on our system that are actually, it's very interesting. Like we have Web2 customers that come in, they have nothing to do with crypto, but one of their contractors is asking for a USDC payout and they don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we have Web3 customers that only have USDC or, whatever stable coin on their treasury. They have some of their workers asking to get paid in fiat, but they have no idea how to do it. So we're seeing all of these use cases that are making the case for a hybrid payment engine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Different parts of the world, sometimes people are pigeonholed to thinking about just, their use cases in the US, but there's a lot of companies, especially in Web3, that operate globally, and
Yeah.
they want to hire talent from wherever
Right.
it's, either, wherever it's the right fit a lot of times.
Yeah.
But, it's great to be able to have that flexibility to either be, hey, I'm a Web3 only organization and I need to pay people in their local currency, or vice versa. I love
Mhm.
that blend and that option there for folks.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you mentioned being compliant. How do you guys make sure that you're navigating the complex regulatory landscape associated with international payments and, beyond that, crypto digital assets as well?
Yeah. Rise is US based. And we want to be, since the beginning, both me and my co-founder and half of the team is based in the US. Like the entire, now everything's changing with the new administration coming in, and there's, people, know that it's gonna, like the regulatory framework is about to change for our industry in a positive way. But we had the approach in the beginning that we wanted to be in the US in the most compliant ways. So, I can get into the details, but we're registered with the different authorities like FinCEN. We're acquiring all of our licenses at the state level, or MTLs. And in order to be able to do that, you need to have a full-on compliance program. So I think to this date, we have 10 different compliance policies, 4 different compliance programs, which are related to onboarding with KYC, KYB, anti-money laundering check. Then we have transaction monitoring. Then we have reporting. So we have a full-on, thanks to our magnificent chief compliance officer, a full-on, program around it. We actually invest a lot into tools that enable us to do, all the onboarding, transaction monitoring, and reporting. It's actually a joke that we have internally, is that we have an enterprise grade compliance program and tooling when we're just a startup. But I believe that in the long run, obviously, that's going to make us stand apart, right? So,
I completely agree with that. I haven't seen too many businesses that are forward thinking in that way, and it's so necessary, the compliance aspect of this, especially being a money service business.
Right.
With all those complex aspects. Not a lot of startups have that foresight and the ability to hire a compliance officer. So it's good to hear that as well.
Right. So that's what we do in the US domestically.
Mhm.
The majority of our payouts are like in fiat and stablecoin, not necessarily cryptocurrencies. So when it comes to fiat, we leverage partners that have local rails for now. When it comes to stable coins, it's USD denominated, so there's not so much about, hey, someone getting paid in a very weird cryptocurrency and all of the implications that come with that. So it's pretty straightforward. And for now, we're just paying independent contractors, so independent contractor payouts, in which they have to on their own essentially pay their taxes, if that makes sense. So now with the new, the projects that we have and endeavors that we have, we'll have a more local presence when it comes to full-time employees, and that will come with a full-on, companionship, I would say, around that part of getting paid in crypto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Before the call, we were talking a little bit about, where I live in Costa Rica. There's a lot of Bitcoin adoption, and I realized, you asked me about stable coins, and I realized I actually bought my car with stable coins, and I forgot to mention that. So the adoption trends are happening, and I think that it's a global. You can leverage these tools globally. Obviously, slightly different use case, but same denomination in those stable coins. So it's. I think we're in for an exciting few years coming up here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and we see it firsthand. Like all of our customers are asking for new features, like having the transaction between the employer and the contractor is one thing, but there's so many different services and products we can add on each end of the transaction that essentially makes a more compelling ecosystem. Like people get paid in stable coin or crypto, like what do they do with that once they get paid? So coming up with products and ways for them to spend them, to invest them, to acquire them, like there's so many things we can do, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, no, I think I've talked the on-chain payroll thing has always intrigued me a lot, just because there's so many things you can do with it with smart contracts. One of the things I thought about, in the US, there's such an issue with payday loans as an example. Predatory loans for people that, they've already earned that money. It's just they need to wait that week or 2 weeks before it hits their bank account. And so, one thing that I've always thought about is like, why can't, and I know that this isn't happening actively right now, but in the future, it's going to be really cool to be able to see, hey, I've earned 3 days worth of wages so far. Let me just draw that out of the smart contract that it's in now because I've earned it already. It's mine. Things like that, where you can actively leverage smart contracts to get paid what you're owed immediately, and there's no downtime. I think stuff like that is going to help disrupt a lot of predatory businesses and business practices in the States that just take advantage of people that are having a cash flow problem, right?
That's I mean, I'm glad you bring that up because that's exactly what we're building.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, actually we so essentially, so I was saying, like, we have this hybrid payment engine on which we're stacking up products and services. The first one that we have is a global contractor payout system. The second one we're adding is an on-chain payroll engine. So think about, taxes deducted on-chain, put into specific buckets, state, local, federal, agencies that are then getting paid automatically. But financial products for the employees, such as EWA, like earned wage access, or daily pay, like these are things that, because of our infrastructure, we can make so efficient and so easy for these people. So we're definitely I mean, you'll see news in a few weeks, but when we launch this product, we'll have all sorts of like innovative financial products. So
I love that. And the thing that I've noticed, and I'm not sure why it is, but it seems like anytime I transfer from like Coinbase or Kraken to my bank account, it seems to hit it so much faster than like if I transfer from my business bank account to my personal account. It usually takes 1 to 3 days. If I pull money out of Coinbase and obviously it's the same system, so I'm not really sure what's happening. It usually hits within the same day. So I'm not really sure. I don't know if you have any insight on that, but it seems like
it depends. It depends on the rails they're using, especially in the US. I mean, you have ACH, you have wires, now you have RTP, FedNow. Depends what rail they're using. What I can tell you is that on Rise, like if it's a USD like payout, not a USDC, a USD payout, it's the same. It's like within minutes, basically, you get that to your bank account.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big challenge that I have, being an expat living in Costa Rica and getting, my business is located in the States, so I'm working remotely, right? And a lot of times, I'll get paid for my business, and then I got to wait for those funds to get transferred to my personal account so that I can pull them out from the ATM. And it's like, there's so much friction there. And the banking system here in Costa Rica is so antiquated and bureaucratic that it's, big reason and why I'm pushing a lot of what I do is seeing issues on the ground in places like this. So I know we've talked a little bit about the operational efficiencies that firms can get out of implementing a solution like Rise. Can you talk a little bit more about some of those efficiencies that are gleaned from using your service?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things, but yeah, from a like monetary standpoint, the first one that comes to mind is the cost, obviously.
Mhm.
So, saving on global payments, saving on FX transactions, saving on hidden fees, basically that traditional TradFi providers hide in most instances. Like I was actually looking at this diagram the other day where you see like a bank to bank transfer across the world versus like the stablecoin sandwich kind of diagram. And there's a lot of hidden fees that are avoided by leveraging this kind of infrastructure. So that's the first one. The second one is speed from an operational standpoint. Being able to, on-chain works 24/7. There's no downtime. And like transfers are essentially done in seconds nowadays. So that would be the second one. And I mean, so many different things too, like that I like surprises for the product that we're gonna launch, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, it's so nice to be able to be like, hey, I just sent you payment. Here's the transaction ID. Like
Yeah.
as simple as that. It's like
Right.
this has happened. It's on chain. It's it's in
Yeah.
your wallet.
Yeah.
Instant.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
that. There's a kind of, I don't know, like a dopamine hit that
Yeah.
you get too, of just
Yeah.
like immediately seeing those funds.
Yeah. Right.
That
And
really, yeah. Go
and
ahead.
and all, adding to that is like the scalability that we provide. Like, we speak to a lot, I mean, all day long, we speak to like managers, founders, operators, whether it's in Web2 or Web3, and realize how antiquated the systems they use are, or how manual their processes are. So when we
Mhm.
tell them like, hey, you can have 100, like a team of 100 across the world, onboarded in seconds or in minutes, whether they're doing business as a contractor or as a full-time employee, and you can essentially scale all of your payouts and not have to worry about if Taylor wants to be paid in USD, or Hugo wants USDC, or this guy wants euro or whatsoever. You can just scale all of that and automate all of that, and we do it all for you. They get that kind of like wow moment, basically.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah. So in that same kind of vein, talking about integrating into these systems,
Yeah.
how does Rise integrate with existing accounting and HR systems within
Yeah.
a firm?
Yeah, so we're actively working on that. We're actually coming up again. That will be one of our many, sorry, announcements in the coming weeks. But we're coming up on integration with the large accounting softwares that you can think of, and also large HR platforms that you can think of. So
Mhm.
that's going to be that's all coming within the next few weeks.
So for users that are interested in your product or implementing your product,
Yeah.
I know that we talked a little bit about it being flexible. So is it fair to say that a new user can come in with no crypto experience at
Yeah.
all and implement Rise's solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. Even though we're built on chain, or like a majority of our infrastructure is built on chain, we built the system so that any non-crypto friendly or people that don't know at all about crypto can use our system. It's actually quite fascinating. Like we have something called a Rise ID on our system, which is a smart contract that you mint when you onboard. Like we help users plug in either the crypto wallets to own that smart contract, or we create, what we call Rise security keys for them, which are essentially, non-custodial wallets, but just wallets that help them, own this particular smart contract and take particular actions. But we built the entire system from A to Z for people to use, even though they don't want or know crypto.
That's interesting. And I know that it sounds like if I'm a independent contractor and I enter the Rise ecosystem and then I go to another firm and they happen to use Rise as well, it sounds like I'll be, if I have what you're describing in your Rise ID, would that be applicable to the other firm as well, or would I need to do a separate onboarding process?
No, I mean, once you've done your KYC and KYB with Rise and you have your Rise ID, you can
Mm-hmm.
get invited by, I mean, obviously you don't want to have multiple employers at the same time, but you can have multiple clients or
Mm-hmm.
customers at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. But once you're in Rise, and it's like, the idea is to build your financial ecosystem, so having your multiple customers for you to receive paychecks, to send bills, to pay bills, to on and off ramp, like all these, real financial ecosystem for you.
Very cool. So as far as companies onboarding and implementing Rise's tools,
Right.
what kind of support does Rise offer for that process, for both the employees or contractors? And then, how do you ensure a user-friendly experience with those folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the user-friendly experience, it comes from like a constant feedback loop. Being very close to our customers, whether that's our customer support or customer success managers and reps, or even our account executive that are onboarding people, or even myself and the leadership team. Constant feedback loop to improve the product, to make the experience more user friendly. We're actually coming up with the second version of our product in a couple of weeks. In terms of onboarding, we have, I mean, all sorts of content documentation. So, employees contractors that get onboarded, they get access to a guide, they get access to videos. We have 24/7 customer support available. And then on the employer side of things, it's a little bit more like hands-on at first, hand-holding. And we have, teams of AEs and customer support, customer success that will onboard them basically.
Very cool. So we talked a little bit about getting paid on stablecoins. Do users have options to get paid on other crypto, or is it mostly limited to the stablecoins, and then they can do with those stablecoins what they want once they have them?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, we're right now available when it comes to stablecoins and on-chain activities. We're available on 5 different chains. So EVM compatible chains. Basically, we're working on adding more. And again, all of that is based on demand, what we're seeing, like actual demand coming from users. But basically, yeah, it's the majority of our volume is done in stable coins. We do have a Uniswap integration. After users get paid, they can decide to swap for other cryptocurrencies, and by that time, like, they're basically responsible, for declaring, paying, gains on that or whatsoever. But yeah, we have an integration. Now our goal with our the future releases that we're going to make is having a DeFi kind of like marketplace, where we essentially users can plug their funds into different like pools or protocols or marketplaces, obviously on their own, but showing them. And that's when I think it's very important to think about how do we onboard non-crypto friendly users to this new financial ecosystem, is by having those sorts of features and marketplaces and enabling access for these guys.
Yeah, kind of like directing them to, hey, you can get 5% yield on your USDC over here, or if you want to get this debit card to be able to spend your USDC, they offer these bonuses or things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And so, just anecdotally, what EVM chains are most popular so far with users that are withdrawing funds to? Is it Polygon, Optimism? Which ones are most popular or most in demand?
Right now, the one that we have that's working the most is Arbitrum.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. In terms of withdraw, it's Arbitrum. We're enabling more. In terms of funding, it's Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism.
Cool.
Mainnet also has like a decent amount of funding. But yeah, we're working. Base is on the roadmap, and then we'll see about others. But yeah, it's our goal is to have like the most amount of integrations possible.
Well, I would love to hear you share some examples or case studies of folks that have implemented Rise to streamline their payroll processes. Do you have any examples of folks that have had like good success with your product?
Yeah. In the Web2 category, the first one that I won't name it, but a traditional marketing agency that had workers based in Argentina, and these workers wanted to get paid in USD. And when they came to us, they were like, how do we do that? And we told them, the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to get your people paid in USD is to send it actually via stablecoins in USDC. So they had fiat treasury. We paid their workers in stable coins. That's for like they were able to essentially retain talent just with that particular feature on their payroll. Another one was actually a protocol like a DAO that came to us and that said, hey, we want to be the most compliant possible, but the hiccup is that our contributors want to stay anonymous. So we actually have a feature on our system where contributors, anonymous contributors on board on Rise, they pass KYC, like we know their identity, we verify all their docs, process anti-money laundering checks, etc. But the DAO, essentially our customer, doesn't know their identity. They just see an avatar. So that's one of like the key, and I don't know to this day, I don't know any other like payroll platform that can facilitate that.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hugely important to a lot of people in the space. And so yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
A
Right.
great feature.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what industries have seen the most significant benefits from adopting Rise? Like obviously Web3, but beyond that, what other industries do you see really leveraging your product the most or getting the most benefit out of it?
Yeah, I mean, we just have independent contractor payouts now. So we've been, targeting our marketing and sales efforts towards organizations and verticals and businesses that have like an independent workforce first kind of workforce. So, marketplaces that have gig workers on it, agencies, startups, all these sorts of companies are using us and benefiting from it. Now with the few products that we plan on launching, I think we'll be able to move upstream and target larger SMBs and move towards enterprise.
So it sounds like my last question related to this was about how the transition to a hybrid payroll system has impacted the operations of companies, but also contractor satisfaction. What has been what have you seen from that standpoint? It sounded like with the Argentinian example that was like a deal maker for them and that kept those people on board. Do you have any other examples related to that?
I mean, it's mostly related to that. It's like us. It's like Rise coming in at a time where a traditional company has international workers that are asking for specific methods of payouts, and they don't know how to do that. They're like, should we go through like off ramp via an exchange? On ramps via an exchange, but that comes with fees. It comes with time. What about compliance? What about taxes? So having this overall, complete offering from compliance to payments is actually quite good for us. So that's on the contractor side of things. On the payroll side of things that we're about to launch, we see surprisingly like a lot of the large Web3 companies that we can think of are still leveraging very antiquated and obsolete payroll systems. So when we speak to them and tell them, hey, you'll be able to have all of your contractors, all of your full-time employees with healthcare, taxes, benefits, full payroll system built on chain. But a lot of them, what we've seen so far is that it's a no-brainer, like condensing all of that. So we're super excited to get to market with these new products.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from experience. I was operating as CFO more actively back in DeFi summer and that time, and I was in Excel, figuring out each contractor and the payment and which tokens they wanted to receive, and then doing multi-sends, and it's like it was a mess. And some people wanted USDT, some people wanted USDC, others wanted to get paid in our native token, and so then it was just so complex and so convoluted that having a solution where the onus is on the contractor to onboard themselves, but also it's one centralized place where I just need to type in what they get paid and then click a button. It's like that to me was a huge pain point, and a big part of my job was just going through monthly payroll. And then you can fat finger and make a mistake and it's on chain, so it's permanent. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, we should definitely speak again in like a month from now when we have these new products, and I want to show you what it looks like.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked a little bit about some of those upcoming features. I don't know how much you want to share here or how much is kind of saved for more formal press release, but What can users expect out of Rise in 2025?
A lot. New products and geo like international expansion. So as I was saying, we have this engine on which we're putting products on top of. Right now we have global contractor payouts. We're adding we're currently pushing to actually, as we speak, pushing to production the first on-chain payroll engine with taxes deducted on-chain, healthcare benefits in the US. On that, we'll have an employer of record service where Rise becomes the employer for a US-based employee. And here the employer would be international. So think about an entity, a company based in Costa Rica that wants to absolutely employ like one US-based employee, but doesn't want to set up an entity and all of the legal and compliance costs that come with that. We do that. So we do that for you, basically. So EOR and then direct payroll. So this is more like a US-based employer wanting to employ a US-based employee. We essentially facilitate our tech. We then plan a geo expansion on these two payroll products with Canada, UK, Europe, Latin America, all throughout 2025. And then the last service that I can share, but not the least, and actually not the last, but a bill pay product, where essentially, say you're a accounts payable, accounts receivable product, leveraging still this hybrid payment infrastructure. So being able to, and also like some AI components into it, where you receive an invoice via an email, you forward that to Rise, and then automatically we read the recipient details, whether it's on chain or in fiat, and then you can just log into Rise and approve the payment, or essentially send out bills to your customers. So
very cool. Yeah, that was a kind of a logical next step that I was thinking about for you guys, being this facilitator of payments and already having all the licenses related to that. And then implementing something like that seems to make a lot of sense for your users to be able to expand. And I know I can see that the cannabis industry, I'm very involved in the cannabis industry. I have a lot of clients that operate retail dispensaries in Massachusetts. And a big challenge for them is being able to make payments. They can't do ACH. They're shut out of banking operations. They can do checks, or they can do like a lot of them use like antiquated services that will send a check on their behalf. But to be able to implement something like this, instant settlement, hybrid fiat and crypto, they don't even have to leverage the crypto aspect if they don't want to. So stuff like that, I think, there's a lot of potential for outside of crypto to be able to leverage your tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like apart from like just a traditional Web2 company that wants to stay like in the how do you say, like in the know, or like wants to keep attracting and retaining younger generations of workers that are asking for more and more flexible ways of getting paid, and more and more ways to invest their funds. Like it's evident to us that, say, big like Fortune 500 basically that want to stay like innovative will adapt a system like ours one way or another. It's obvious we're already having discussions with those guys, and I think the future is quite exciting and interesting.
So wrapping up here a little bit, what advice would you give to companies that are interested in exploring Rise's services but are unsure of where to start?
I mean, definitely start on our website. We have a lot of resources. We actually put, with the help of our head of content, a lot of content out around contractor payouts, whether it's like, we have, different categories on our resources centers, but like whether it's compliance, tax related, crypto related, stablecoin related, or just, traditional payments, we put a lot of content out there to educate our users around our product and the industry. So definitely start on the site, and then obviously the team has, our doors are open basically. So any questions, we have a full-on business development team that will be happy to educate and help potential customers and even people in general.
Awesome. And then any final thoughts you'd like to share about the importance of modernizing payroll systems?
I think the two tailwinds that we see are basically the adoption of like global work. Obviously COVID accelerated that, but now more and more people are working remotely. and are setting up, their businesses, their entities remotely. So this is the first, like, global work is definitely like exploding. The second one is stablecoin adoption, or leveraging blockchain rails to process payments, basically.
Mhm.
So the addition of the two is essentially what we're building,
Mhm.
like this full-on hybrid system for global teams and global workers. So I think it's evident that the traditional payroll systems that are not looking at stablecoin rails and blockchain rails and even global, payroll, capabilities will be very quickly outdated. So
Mhm.
I would say, yeah, it's, what we're building, I think, is definitely in the right direction, and we're seeing it across, like, everything. So
Yeah, it seems like this solution is going to help people dip their toes in without, needing to commit to making that change,
right.
but also have the ability to flip that switch whenever they want to.
Yeah, exactly. And just to finish, like, we're going to market with these new products. We're hungry for partners, whether that's accounting firms or consulting firms or HR firms that are seeing these topics becoming more and more topical, essentially, or coming up more and more often. Would love to have an open discussion with them and seeing how we can work together.
That's awesome. Well, this has been such a pleasure, Hugo, learning more about your services that I didn't even know. I feel like I'm pretty up to date on what Rise does, and I didn't know that you guys were
Yeah,
facilitating payments between businesses as well. So that's
yeah,
really cool to hear as well.
right,
And I'm excited to hear more of the announcements that you guys have coming for us in 2025.
yeah.
And yeah, once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to doing the next one
All
already.
right, sounds good.